Welcome to today's episode of the Bryan G Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Gutierrez. If you're enjoying the show and receiving value from our content, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss out on the next episode. Now let's check out today's show. We're going to be talking about one of the critical systems of the home. And a couple examples of those are like your roof, your foundation, your HVAC system, plumbing system, and of course, electrical system is one of those critical systems. And to help me talk about this today is Mr. Casey Meyer from Lakes Electric. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
For those of you who may not know you, why don't you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, so I'm Casey Meyer, and I actually, we'll try to make this short, right? I started in electrical in 1994. So I've got a few years underneath my belt, know what we're doing. And I actually grew up on the west side of the state in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Met a nice young lady over here in Milford and moved this way in 2014. I worked for another company for roughly 4 years. Got to the point that I was just, let's see what we can do. And so it was just me and a truck starting out. And 6 years later, here we are.
Wow. So how does your business now from starting up?
So now we have 10 field technicians, so 10 guys out in the field. I've got 4 people in the office. That includes myself. So I got a couple of admins, and then I got an estimator and a project manager. So yeah, things have really ballooned in 6 years more than we ever expected.
I was going to say, yeah, things are working really well. You have a newer facility too, right?
Yeah, we recently moved down to Whitmore Lake.
Okay.
That gets us pretty central for a lot of stuff that we do. We do a lot of work in Ann Arbor and Dexter, but we also do a lot of work in Brighton, Howell, Milford, all the way over to Waterford. So yeah, pretty much like Western Oakland, Southern Genesee, Livingston, and Washtenaw.
Okay, great. Well, I'm really glad your business is doing so well, and it's no surprise because you guys do fantastic work.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw some questions out there. I have people asking questions all the time about things that we kind of know about, but we kind of don't. And electrical is one of those things, right? Like we know what electricity does, but we don't quite know, or the layperson doesn't quite know how it really works. Mm-hmm. Here's a few questions that people have asked me about. What's the difference between like 100 amp, 200 amp, or what are the different amp levels or amp services coming into a home?
So in layman's term, amperage is like power, how much you actually have to run your house. 100 amp service is still good today for like your if you got a condo or a bungalow or something of that nature, and a lot of that really depends on your appliances. If your appliances are gas, then 100 amp service is probably good enough for your home. If you have a lot of electric appliances, such as a dryer, a range, those types of things, those really draw the energy, right? And if you're in the market for an EV, that might also put a lot of strain on 100 amp service.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
How about electric water heaters? Same thing?
Same thing. Again, it's a matter of putting those all together. Some houses might just have an electric water heater and the other appliances are gas, and you're good with 100. Okay. I know status quo for now for a new home, especially on these houses that are, in the 2,200 square foot range. Mm-hmm. Our go-to is always 200 amp. But we work with a lot of custom builders. So we're not looking to just get in. We want to set them up for the future as well.
Okay. All right, great. Yeah, that's really interesting. Another thing too is, all right, so when do you need to, you hear the phrase like up the service. Mm-hmm. So when, I guess you probably just answered that, didn't you?
To a certain degree. Yeah. So that's the best part. Like part of what I love doing is when I go out and look at a project, it's not about quoting it entirely. It's about education. Right. So there's a number of places that I will go. The customer will say, I need to upgrade my service. So upgrading it just means maybe they had fuses or old breakers or something, and they just want to get new. Mm-hmm. The other part is upgrading, meaning going from 100 to 200 amp. We sell projects based on the fact that we educate. And that's why I was getting at the 100 amp service compared to 200. There might not be a reason at all to upgrade to a 200 amp service. And we end up getting those calls because I talk to the customer, I look at their situation, I discover that all their appliances are gas. They have no need to go to a 200 amp service unless they're looking for like a hot tub, EV, those types of items that are going to pull on the system. But again, like being conscious of where you go, a lot of, let's just face it, a lot of elderly people that I go to, they, to a certain degree, some people will come in and look at them and be like, I can tell them whatever I need to tell them and get this project.
Right.
And I go in and I look at the situation. I say, if anyone told you that you have to have a 200 amp service, take that with a grain of salt.
That is really refreshing.
Yeah.
Because in real estate, we deal with all kinds of contractors all the time. And of course, homeowners do too as well. Yep. And boy, there really is a lack of education out there, or or lack of understanding.
Correct.
Right. And that's one thing I really like about you guys is that you explain things really, really well. And that is really so important because, there's a lot of contractors out just trying to gouge, right? Like you said, get the project, tack on another $5,000 to it. And, that's just.
Yeah, because the whole education part of that going in is at that point in time. Let's just throw a number out. A 200 amp service upgrade is $3,000, right? Mm-hmm. A 100 amp service upgrade is like $2,100. So I'm saving the homeowner $900. But it's not just about that. It's when they have something else, they're only calling me because they already know that I'm looking out for their best interest. So it's not about that immediate dollar. We're all about the return customer. And there's plenty of contractors that don't care about return customers.
Right. And I've met some of those before.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
No, but, and it's also, just as a side note, from running a business, it's a wonderful way to run a business, right? It's very similar to what I do, why we're here on this podcast, right? Is to help, inform, educate people, educate the consumer so that they feel more confident, right? And to also, be like the resource for that information too. And that's really what separates what I feel is like a full-timer from a professional. Mm-hmm. Right. And people definitely appreciate that. When I talk to people, when I go to meet with them, when I meet someone for the first time, I assume that they've done just as many hours of research that I have.
Yep.
Right. And so people will see right through that.
Oh yeah.
They know it. People are very savvy these days. There's access to all this information. And, when you come off just really, really genuine and really bring value, people definitely appreciate that. It's a very similar thing for the kind of service, different service, but the kind of service I provide too. Mm-hmm. But in talking about electrical boxes, I'd like to kind of go through like a little history there, because I had a home inspection once for a client, and they had a Federal Pacific electrical panel. Mm-hmm. And the home inspector said, this thing's defective, it's got to go. However, it was a tri-level home built in the 70s and it had been there the whole time. Those homeowners never had an issue with it.
Right.
But we did do some research and find out that they're not preferred.
Right.
And another one I think is Zinsco, Zinsco, those are just like two like defective breaker panels that I've heard about before. Why don't you get like the rundown on that?
Sure. So, back in the day, right? Glass T-type fuses is what they're called that you turned in. The issue with those, it's not so much that it's a bad system. They actually, the way they open up the circuit or break the circuit is actually a good system. The problem is there is nothing to prevent you from putting too large of a fuse in a circuit, right?
Oh,
so quick little information, right? A 14 gauge wire is only rated for 15 amps. Well, if that's in that fuse box and they blow the circuit, next thing Mr. McGillicuddy does is he puts a 20 amp fuse in.
Of course.
Oh, it still pops. Let's go a 30.
Ugh.
So, and then that's where the issue comes in, because that wire isn't rated for it. And that's where some fires can start. So that's why there are a lot of insurance companies that won't even insure a home anymore if they have glass fuses. The same can be said for what I call Federal Pathetic, not Federal Pacific. They've actually had recall on that. And the problem with them is that their breakers are designed for overcurrent, but not short circuit.
So what does that mean?
It means that I'm not going to tell you how I do things, but I'll tell you There are times where I have tried to do like a circuit locator. And one of the ways that we do that is we touch the hot and the neutral together and it pops the breaker, right?
Okay.
Then we know what breaker it's on. It shuts it off.
There you go.
With Federal Pacific, when you touch those wires together,
Yeah.
they literally just get molten hot.
Ooh.
And just disappear. And it will go like you're welding, and the breaker will never trip.
Wow.
So they're designed for overcurrent, which means too much amperage, but nothing for short circuiting.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yep.
So what might cause that to do that?
Just old technology.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to do that. It was all about, to be honest, some of these panels like Federal Pacific, they were designed to be a way to turn the circuit off and not really give you the best protection. It was the best they had at the time, but yeah, a lot of flaws.
Ooh, and, kind of going back to the glass fuses, I could totally see, Joe homeowner be like, well, it's 15, I'll put in 30. That's good for it, right?
Yep.
Like it's twice as much. Like,
yeah, and there was nothing to prevent that. They
Yeah.
do now. They have inserts actually that you can put in, and then those inserts are rated. And then the actual fuse that turns into that insert, it will only accept one size fuse. So there is a way to get by that, but it's not something we recommend. It's like we just have to upgrade that and move on.
Well, I'm sure you remember I had those here in my house,
Yep,
right? And you came in to replace that for us. And yeah, I was really surprised, like what you said, that the same, like the different sizes of fuses had the same thread to go in.
Yep.
You'd think they'd make it so that one couldn't go in, right? Like different. Nope.
Not back then when they made them.
No.
It was about, they couldn't make all different types. It was just too pricey. So they made one thing that fit all, and then just trusted that the homeowner would use the best judgment and not oversize the fuse.
Because all homeowners use the best judgment.
Well, and things changed, right? I mean, obviously back then when there were fuses, they didn't have microwaves. They didn't have these high-powered kitchen appliances that were causing issues, space heaters, all that stuff that got added later.
Right.
That's when people started abusing the circuits.
Right.
More appliances, more power. Just let's make it work.
So, talking about defective breaker boxes, what's one of the most dangerous things you've seen in a home that either was not done right by another contractor, or maybe a homeowner tried to DIY or something like that? What's something kind of crazy that you've seen? Like,
well, crazy. I'm going to go very practical. How's this?
Okay. All right.
One of the more dangerous things that I see frequently is people using extension cords for permanent power.
Oh yeah.
Right. An extension cord is for temporary, like your Christmas lights, when you put your Christmas tree up, but it shouldn't be used 100% of the time for your deep freezer in your basement. So it's not necessarily the craziest thing, but I think it's one of those things that people don't think about. Well, I got an extension cord, it's rated, and but every connection point that you have, especially in those molded plastic extension cords, if that heats up, those things just burn up, and there's nothing that's going to prevent some sort of fire at that point. So it's not necessarily crazy or out of the ordinary. It's something that a lot of people do and don't get it.
Yeah, I've never done that.
Right? I'm an electrician, and I may have had things that were not quite permanent, but they were semi.
You're listening to the Bryan G Real Estate Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about me, check out my YouTube channel, Bryan Gutierrez Keller Williams Real Estate, or go to my Facebook page, Bryan Gutierrez Keller Williams. And if you want to hear more of this podcast, please subscribe. Now back to the show. Something I think would be really, really helpful for people to know is, what are some questions that people should ask when they interview an electrical contractor? So they have a project, say a bathroom needs to be done, right? Give us some really good advice on what kinds of questions to ask when interviewing an electrical contractor.
Yeah, I guess some of that would be to have, so it can go two ways. Either the homeowner has a really good understanding of what they want, and they can walk through that process and say, this is what we want to do here, here, and here. If the electrician is, this is a broad sweeping brush, right?
Right.
So if the electrician's like, yeah, no problem, right? Like that could be true. Or there might be questions that the electrician brings up. Hey, I know you want to do this, this, and this, but I noticed this, and maybe this isn't going to work exactly how you want it to.
Okay.
So I'd say there's that really fine line of if someone comes in, looks at a project, and is like, yeah, no problem, we can handle you. It's not a big deal. Um, if you feel like that project takes a little more effort than that, then you should take that with a grain of salt from that particular person. Maybe they're just in there trying to get information real quick, get out so they can get you a number
Mm-hmm.
and then, get you a high price. But I know when we go in and look at something and the customer they have no idea what they want, I'm very confident in what we do. And again, it goes back to the education. It's not sales. Do you want can lights? Do you want recess light? Do you want exhaust fan that's ducted outside? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
all these little things that I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and they're going to ask good questions and get a good feel on who's coming in. Check their interest. Are they actually interested in what you're saying, or are they, just kind of there and ready to get the heck out so they can give you a price?
Right. Is asking for references, is that
For sure.
okay?
Yeah. Making sure that, at the very simplistic side, yeah, checking references, making sure that they are licensed and that they are insured,
Mm-hmm.
and that their business is actually a business you can find, right? Meaning going through the LARA website, are they a registered business in the state of Michigan? Because there are plenty of electricians that I would consider them more handyman
Mm-hmm.
than they
Mm-hmm.
are electricians.
Okay.
So yeah, just doing your due diligence on that as well. Just because they have a nice business card and they have a vehicle with something on the side of it
Right.
doesn't mean they're a legitimately insured and licensed contractor.
Okay. All right. So you can check that out through the state with Lara
Mm-hmm.
and everything like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Because some people, like you said, a really nice business card or really nice presentation materials or even a website that looks good. But
Yep.
yeah, so verify all that. How do you feel about um, as far as payment? Like, what should
I like them.
people?
Yes.
I do too.
Right?
Oh, we
Yeah.
have one more thing in common. Great.
Yep.
But what would be typical or normal for that? Like
Mm-hmm.
half up front, half
Yeah.
when the job's complete, or what should people like? What would be a bad scenario when someone's asking for money, and what's a decent?
Yeah. And
Like,
and so if you're listening or watching this podcast, I'm sure that you're up to date on social media. And how many times on social media have you seen, I gave so and so money and they started and they never came back?
oh yeah,
Right. So at Lakes Electric, for example, we don't get payment depending on the size of the project. We don't get payment until we're done and you're satisfied. If it's if we're doing a new home build, because we do some new home builds for what I would consider a random person, right? Like they got referred to us, but they literally sent us drawings and they want us to do their project. For something like that, then we do 3 payments. We do a small down payment, then we do percentage after the rough electrical, meaning before the insulation and drywall go in,
mm-hmm.
and then we get the final payment when everything is complete, everything's cleared out as far as like our permits and inspections and all that at the completion of the project. So yeah, there definitely are many instances where I see on social media, hey, I gave so and so X number of dollars. They came, they dropped a few things off, and then they never showed up. So if they're asking for a large amount down, that's a red flag, in my opinion.
Okay.
There's plenty of other companies that don't ask for that.
So it's it sounds pretty much like just trust your gut,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If someone's asking for all this money up front,
Yep.
where's the incentive for them to come back?
Right.
It seems kind of simple in that regard, right?
Correct.
So yeah, no, I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, and
is there anything else? Yeah. Is there anything else that people should kind of like look for or look out for when they're interviewing electrical contractor? Like good things, bad things, a little bit more. You got a couple more examples maybe? Or
I mean, see, it's really hard to know because we don't get into the bad things.
Well, of course
Right?
not. That's why you're on this great,
right?
trustworthy podcast.
Yeah,
show,
I'm just like, I get the biggest thing that I think that sets us apart from other contractors, and it's actually part of our mission statement as well, is that regardless of whether you're an employee for us
Mm-hmm.
or if you're a customer of ours, one of our mission statements is that everyone gets heard, right? So it's very important that when we go out on a project that you're heard and we get everything that you're saying, and trying to make sure that we're going to be able to take care of what you're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one big thing that you could look for too. Like I said earlier, when someone's looking at your project, do they seem disinterested? Do they really want to be there? Are they putting your thoughts and your stuff first and picking up on what you're saying and giving it back? Right.
Gotcha.
Because I think there's a lot, I shouldn't say a lot. There are contractors out there that just, their tunnel vision. Hey, can I get in? Can I get paid? Can I get out? They're not concerned about the whole process. They're more concerned about getting a project done and moving on to the next one.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah, when I talk to people, not just contractors, but potential clients myself, I'm looking at, are they listening to what I'm saying, or are they just trying to think of the next thing they're going to say?
Yeah.
Right? Like you can tell.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone's looking, when you're looking at someone, whether they're kind of checked out,
Yep.
right, or not completely focused,
or if they're trying to force their agenda on you, right? Like, hey, you gave me this layout. I've been doing this a long time. This is what we're gonna do, as opposed to this is what I would suggest. What do you think about that? And they give you no, actually, and we don't want recessed lights in our kitchen because we like the looks of mounted fixtures.
Okay.
They want to have something decorative. So if I don't take that into account and I say, well, can lighting gives you much better light on your countertops and stuff, and they tell me, no, we like to have decorative lighting, and I just keep pushing that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like you have to step back at a certain point. The other thing that I tell customers a lot of time is I understand what you want. It's not necessarily what I would choose, but when we're done with a project, we leave. You have to live with it. So we want to make sure that it's what you want.
Right.
And at the same time, that whole education piece where I said my main goal is when your friends or family come over and they look at something and they go, oh, well, why didn't you do this? I want you to be able to say, we talked about it and we decided not to do it, as opposed to, oh, that never came up. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So,
did it not come up because the contractor didn't allow it to come up?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. No, that's really, really good advice.
It goes back to the part about being heard, right? You educate, you listen, you hear it, and you make their dream what they want it to be, right?
And it just comes down to like those really basic human instincts, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Just listen to people, right? Yep. I mean, just care about what the other person thinks. I mean, it sounds crazy to me that we need to remind ourselves to do that, but we really do.
Yep.
It's a skill, right? And I know that's something that you guys do really well. And I'd like to kind of segue a little bit away from the technical electrical talk just for a minute. One thing that I really like about your company, Lakes Electric, is the fact that you guys are so involved in the communities that you serve. And I was wondering if you just kind of tell us a little bit more about that, because I think that's just a wonderful aspect of your business.
Well, as you know, we're a sponsor of the Milford Cinema, right? We had the opportunity to do a couple projects there and do them at what I would say a little bit below cost, right? Give a little bit back and giving the cinema something that they desperately needed. I mean, especially when it comes to safety, adding that lighting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's stuff like that. We also were involved with a community sharing in Highland.
Okay. Yep.
At their,
great organization.
Their new facility. When they put that building up, it was, again, talking to them. the contractor told them what they were going to have and not really listen to what they needed, right? So we're going to go in there. We're going to put ceiling fans in. That's actually on the docket here in the next couple of months.
Okay.
So I guess in the warmer months, it gets a little bit hot in there. So we're going to put some ceiling fans in to help circulate some air for them. I'm also involved in the Benjamin, which you know.
Yes.
That's a great organization that not just me, but a whole bunch of other people contribute. But Lakes Electric is what they call a Patriot supporter.
Correct.
So we give a little bit more than just the $100 Benjamin. So that's another organization that we're involved with. And then something that we started this year at our company is just a community giving program. I have been the face of Lakes Electric since it started. And I want to be, it's not that I don't want to be the face, but I want Lakes Electric to stand on its own. It's not just about Casey.
Right.
It's about all the people that work there. So what we're doing this year is every month, a different employee is going to be the employee of the month that gets to go out and do a community giving event, meaning Lakes Electric in their name is going to give $1,000 to that organization.
Great.
So this way they have something that they're connected to. They get to bring it to me because it's not my connection, right? We do Howell Nature Center. We do, all these different organizations that I have a passion for. But what about my employees? They might not be on board with everything Lakes Electric says we are, right?
Right.
So this gives them an opportunity to go out, and we have one of those big fake checks that's going to be kind of fun. And they're going to go out and present that to an organization along with a real check. And then, so that's just, right off the cuff there, that's $12,000 a year that we're committing to just different organizations based on what the employees choose.
Oh, so the employees,
the employee of the month.
To...
the employee of the month gets to pick the organization.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yep. So that's something on top of the other stuff we do.
That kind of, that kind of corporate culture is so important.
Yep.
That's fantastic. I didn't know you did all of that. I love that new program. That's
great. It's like I said, it's just to kind of get me out of the way a little bit. Like it's fun to be the face.
Or sure wasn't to get a younger face? Is that
yeah, maybe. But yeah, it literally is. It's one of those things like I want my employees to also enjoy that part of what we do. Right. So it's not me handing a check over to the cinema. It's these employees have a passion for an organization, and they get to go on behalf of Lakes Electric and say, here you go. We support you.
Absolutely. And, it's been my philosophy too, that I feel that every small business owner should contribute to the communities that we ask to sustain our business.
Yep.
That's one of my mantras. It's on my materials. And that is like so very important. And what I like about that is that it's also giving your employees like one more thing to like about work.
Right.
We all go to work and we do what we have to do. Would it be nice if we all quit tomorrow? We're independently wealthy? Sure. Right. So we do have to work, but it's great when you love your job.
Yep.
Right. And when my boss, Casey, is helping me support, my church charity or whatever that might be,
yep.
or this local, art house or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's absolutely wonderful. And, that also, and I'm sure you notice, is helps your employees are now kind of vested personal ownership, right?
Correct.
And I think that's brilliant. And it's also just a wonderful thing to do just on a human level.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things, other than doing great work, I really just really like about your business is that you guys are contributing.
Yeah. And then we have done stuff out of the area too. The last 2 years we went to Baltimore, and I brought, I think the first year I brought 4, and last year I brought 5 of our guys with me.
All right.
And we did outreach in a small church in Baltimore. So we got to actually go hands-on. Right. Yeah. So to have your employees be engaged in something like that, then it changes their perspective too, right? It's not, no longer at that point is it about Lakes Electric. It's about, their lives being changed and them seeing like, oh, giving to a community has so much power.
Absolutely.
And they may not, like in their everyday life, especially in the trades, like that's not something we do. Okay.
Right.
Right. And you and I have talked before, and and one of the things that I say all the time is we do things different. And I'm going to stand by that. Right. And so being able to bring these guys to Baltimore and outreach someplace that they don't even know and be able to help them out, they come back and they're changed. They're like, oh, this was great for me. Yeah, I know we got to help out, but I mean, yeah, I didn't know I could experience something like that.
And, and I'll tell you, I feel there's such a need for that personal connection these days,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the world of electronics, we're becoming less, we're connected, but not personally connected, right? Like conversations one-on-one are rare these days.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. Cause similar to you guys, right? I'm in a lot of different, organizations in our community too. And boy, it just feels good.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's nice to have a great day at work and then have a great event, in the community and just help somebody out. And you come home at the end of the day and you're like, you just got a little permagran, right?
Right.
For a couple of hours. It's
Yep.
like, it's fantastic.
Yep.
It feels great,
Mm-hmm.
and, I like think about if everybody just volunteered one day a year, I mean, everything would change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, without getting too deep into stuff, right? But it's that fine line of, between happiness and joy. Happiness can come and go, and joy is something that's sustained. And this helps feed that bucket of joy.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely great. Well, do you have any other parting thoughts about you'd like to share with us? Or?
I don't know. I think no, this was good. Actually, I do. Now that I
Okay.
think about it.
All right.
So, because you're on the realtor side,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm sure you get the question all the time, like, "Hey, what do I need to prepare for?" Right? For
Yes.
selling or buying a home.
Yeah.
One thing, and it sounds a little bit off to a certain degree, but if you're selling a home, don't worry about trying to try to get everything perfect before you sell. Know that there might be some things that have to be done, but I've been in a number of instances where I came into someone's home because I had a list of things that they thought they should do.
Mm-hmm.
So I did those things. And then the home inspector came in and he came up with another list of things. So I had to go back another time.
Right.
Right. And this goes back to, I'm not just here for the money, right? Get me
Right.
there one time. It's going to be much more cost effective. Not saying that, if there's obvious things that need to be taken care of or whatever, that's fine. But if you're trying to find every little thing on your own before an actual home inspector comes in,
Right.
you might just be, turning your wheels.
And that's a really good point, because a big part of my job is setting expectations for home buyers and sellers, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite phrases is "for the age of the house, ...
Right.
Right. So if we're looking at a home in the 50s, we can't truly expect that it's going to have the code
Mm-hmm.
of 2024, right?
Right.
And of course, like 50s, 60s, 70s, historic homes are completely different there. I mean, those joists are 24 on 24. They're not even
Right.
16 on center, right?
Yep.
So, so that is where it is important for the agent to also set those expectations too. Hey, for the age of your house, you're in really good condition.
Yep.
And I like what you're saying there is like, yeah, you can't really fix too much before the home inspection, because I mean, homes, it sounds painfully obvious, are so big and there's so many parts to a home that you're not going to be able to find all that in advance.
Yeah. Chances are a home inspector's still going to find something.
Oh yeah, they'll find.
Yeah. Like you can think you have everything covered. And if you miss, he's going to find something. So, it's, for me, it's about saving a few bucks.
Mm-hmm.
If you know there's things that have to happen, let them come up on the inspection report and then we can hit it then.
Okay. All right. No, that's really good advice. All right. Well, hey, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I really, really appreciate it. I really hope that this brings value to you guys out there. Those of you who know me, I'm always trying to bring value of of information, education. You can learn a little bit more about me on my YouTube channel, which is Bryan Gutierrez Keller Williams Real Estate, and also my Facebook page, Bryan Gutierrez Keller Williams. We will include the links for Casey Lakes Electric, pardon me. And so you guys can check them out. Really great contractor. Casey, thank you so much for coming out, man. I really appreciate it. Really nice
for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
All right, man. You take care, and we'll see you around.
Okay.
Thanks.